and the value is overlooked. In fact, I think the GameStop stock is, it epitomizes value investing. It's like value investing at its finest because it's such a classic case of value investing. We'll get into it later. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it's just a classic value stock, and I think that's why it's so polarizing in my opinion. But okay, so let's get into the digital risk overblown. So this transition to digital, I think it's just much slower than what's being priced in. It seems to me that it's been happening over time. I do think it's inevitable. Like if we're looking out 50 years, 100 years, we don't need to have a discussion because we're on the same page. Everything's going to be digital. I just don't think we're there yet. And this is meaningful because 2020 is when the consoles are coming out. It does matter where we are today and where we'll be the next couple of years. You can't just say we're going fully digital, so that's the end of the discussion. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. I'll touch on this later too, but people just go digital is the future, so there's nothing to be had here with GameStop. There's no future. But I don't think we're there yet. I mean, it's transitioning much slower. I have some web pages pulled up here so I think I try to. Let me just keep on going with these bullet points. I'll just list them before I start pulling up some other websites. But people just say, physical discs, they still remain a good-sized chunk in 2020. That's part of what I'm getting at. I also think in-game purchases, they're kind of skewing some of the figures that people are sharing. Like they'll share some figures, which I'll show in just a sec. If they're saying, this is what percentage of the market is digital right now. But I think those in-game purchases are kind of affecting that. I'm not certain, but that's okay because I'm a value investor. I don't need to be precise. And then why discs. But before I get to why discs, let me just share some of the things. So if you Google like physical versus digital, you're going to come across this Statista webpage. And like you see stuff like this, and maybe other people are, and you see, I highlighted this part. In contrast, only 17% of video games were sold in physical form. And you see figures like this, and you see the trend too. If you look at the trend over the past 5 years, it looks really alarming. And so people see this and they think, oh man, GameStop's toast. But I think there's just some misunderstanding with that data. I think a lot of that, like I said, is in-game purchases. I think the actual outright purchase of discs is still relatively high. And I have, let me just see what other page I got up here. So to counter this, there was an article in May 2019 by Wedbush Securities. I mean, maybe they're biased too. Maybe they're bullish on GameStop, but they talk about a number of things that like kind of counter that point that everything's going digital. Like sales of the FIFA game was still 75% discs in 2018. I don't even know the accuracy of that. I see the report that they're citing, but this is the thing. You're going to see lots of data, and as an individual investor, it's hard to know what's true and what's not, what's accurate. So you kind of just got to read a lot and try to get a feel for this type of stuff. And so check out this article. It was in Variety. Check this out because they kind of counter a lot of this stuff. Whether or not you fully agree with it, that's another thing, but just read it. And then there was another thing here too in GameIndustry.biz where they talk about, this is more European focused, where they're talking about certain countries, what percentage is digitized, what percentage of games purchased are physical. And so look over this. I don't want to review the whole thing. That's not the point of this video, but just check out these sources where this was 2018, 2019, it's 2020 right now, and the trend is clearly going toward digital. But this is my point, is that you're still seeing some countries that are still heavily skewed